So, it turns out I managed to play some games this year. Going into this year, I wasn't entirely sure how much I'd be able to play due to a major life goal. And while that did indeed prevent me from gaming much for a few months there in the middle of the year, I still managed to squeeze in a decent amount of gaming time this year around all that. From shorter games, to multiplayer, to new releases, there was a lot of fun to be had this year, and I have 11 games I want to rank from this year. This list is very much ordered around my subjective opinions on the games, so while I do take some of my critical thoughts I have into consideration, the order is very much determined by what I just liked the most and had the most fun with. As per usual, I'm not going to count ongoing games I included in past lists in the ranking. So some of my most played games this year, like Fortnite, Astrobot, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, sadly won't be in here. But you can check my previous rankings if you'd like to know how I ranked them in the past. I also won't be including a few arcade games I played and actually completed this year, since unfortunately I couldn't record my gameplay of those. And finally, there are a couple games I got really late into the year I wish I could have included, but sadly haven't played enough of to feel like I can fairly rank them. But with those aside, let's dive right into my top 11 games I played in 2025.
Number 11.
I have to say, Fire Emblem Among Us was not on my bingo card for this year, but that's sort of what we got with the surprise release of Fire Emblem Shadows. Unfortunately, even before starting this mobile spin-off, it was already fighting an uphill battle to win me over. Admittedly, the character designs they went with this game is not particularly my cup of tea, but that was something I could easily overlook. However, the gameplay wasn't really up my alley either, as it's a very fast-paced multiplayer auto-battler where you really don't have a lot of control over your character, which feels like the polar opposite from the slow, turn-based strategy I like from the main series. But with Fire Emblem being one of my favorite game series, I still wanted to give this game its due diligence and try it. It never really won me over, but I did manage to have some fun playing it. I enjoyed deducing which player was the imposter, and it was fun fooling the others when I was the imposter too, and I felt I was actually pretty good at it. It feels like they were trying to make something unique here, but much of the game just didn't mesh well together. The story failed to hook me too, so I'm not really anticipating I'll be coming back to play it as they release more of it. This game isn't necessarily bad, and I'm glad I tried it, but it is at the bottom of the list this year for sure.
Number 10.
After getting into Lethal Company last year, Content Warning was a similar game that came into my radar that I was interested in playing with friends. I only played it a couple times this year, but I feel I got a good enough feel for the game to include it in this ranking. This game is very much like Lethal Company, where you and your friends delve into an area filled with monsters. But instead of searching for loot, you instead have a camera to record what you find and make videos for SpookTube. As a result, this leads the game into leaning way more heavily into the comedic side of things, as it's more about trying to find the monsters and mess around with them, versus avoiding them at all costs. There is definitely still tension and stakes though, as you still have to have at least one person escape with a camera, and you have to get enough views to continue. But I feel the gameplay overall isn't as organic as Lethal Company, which that's okay, as this game is more about using your creativity and making your own fun with the people you're playing with. This game very much reminds me of making videos with my friends back in the day, especially when you go to the couch and watch what you just recorded and laugh at all the chaos that just transpired. While I did put Content Warning really low on this list, I still did enjoy the game and plan on playing more. Just, I feel as a game it's not as good as most of the others I played this year, especially compared to another Lethal Company-like game you'll be hearing more about later on.
Number 9.
Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion definitely was a charming short game I enjoyed playing early this year. This game is definitely a wacky and chaotic adventure that is heavily inspired by 2D Zelda games and does not hide it at all. As a Zelda fan, I definitely enjoyed the similarities in gameplay, and it was fun seeing the Zelda gameplay loop get implemented into a shorter game. I found the arsenal of items you get in this game to be fun and different too, that makes it feel not entirely like a Zelda clone. Difficulty-wise, it matches Zelda as well, where it isn't too difficult, but has some challenge to it at times. The tone of the game definitely matches the chaotic nature of the title. There's definitely a lot of mischief you get up to while playing this game, and there's a ton of humorous dialogue and puns too. Not all of the humor landed with me, but I definitely got a chuckle from a lot of it, particularly with ripping up all the documents that had anything to do with taxes, from forms to love letters. Don't you dare! The story of the game is simple and seems completely unserious at first, but since I wasn't expecting much there, I was pleasantly surprised when it did go a bit deeper into its own world building, even if it wasn't too sophisticated. I wouldn't say this game blew me away, but I think it's still a fun and humorous experience that doesn't overstay its welcome thanks to its short length, and I'm definitely glad I gave it a try this year.
Number 8.
I was a few months late to the party, but I started Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket at the start of the year. While I'm a big fan of the Pokemon video games, I wasn't really as invested in the cards as much. I liked getting them as a kid, but I never learned how to play the game and never really got back into them in adulthood like I did with the video games. But after seeing a little bit about the mobile game, I wanted to give it a try. And I have to say, the presentation in this game is phenomenal. They really went above and beyond in making everything in the game feel like a real, tangible object. Ripping open the packs in this game feels super satisfying. Perhaps even more so than opening an actual Pokemon card pack. You can view each card like a 3D object too, and some of the rarer cards have some really cool effects to them. The game allows you to show off your collection too, so it has that social aspect to it as well. I feel this is certainly a more affordable alternative to the real game too, as you get at least 2 free packs every day. The quality of presentation continues into the battles as well, which is able to present all the information you need in a satisfying way that still makes everything feel like a physical object. The tutorials do a good job of teaching you how to play the card game as well, which I never really understood until now. This game's biggest flaw is that if you really want to get invested and be competitive in it, you'll probably have to pay lots of real money to increase your chances of getting the cards you want. But for someone playing it casually like me, I feel there's enough free benefits to keep me happy. This game originally was higher on the list earlier in the year when I was super hooked on it. However, I did start to get worn out from it as the year progressed. I still continued to check it regularly when I remembered, but like many mobile games, the daily grind of it made me less enthusiastic about it over time. I still like the game as I continue to come back, but as time has gone on, I realized some of the upcoming games on the list I'd prefer overall.
Number 7.
Inside is probably the most stressful game I've played in a while, but in a satisfyingly good way. I've wanted to play this for a long time, but have always pushed it off. But this October, I finally got around to it as my spookiest game for the season. I played their previous game Limbo back in 2015? Oh my, has it really been that long? But this definitely very much reminded me of that game in style and gameplay, which I definitely enjoyed. The motion and physics in the game definitely feel very organic and grounded, which makes controlling your character and interacting with the environment very satisfying. The puzzles were definitely great too, and were a nice balance of not being too difficult, but also made me feel clever in solving them. The game is incredibly tense too, and it definitely got my stress levels up there a bit at certain points. And it doesn't help that your deaths are surprisingly brutal, which this game is very much designed for you to die a lot, and makes you learn through trial and error, But thankfully it isn't annoying, as the respawns are very generous and you don't have to redo much. And while the story is more of a background thing, with much of it being left up to interpretation, it definitely had me engaged as I was trying to figure out what was going on in this creepy world. I'm glad I finally got to experience this game, and I do think it is very well made. But at the same time, I think the stress of it also made it not as enjoyable as some of the upcoming games in this list.
Number 6.
Mario Kart World is another solid fun time, just like any other Mario Kart. This game is a late addition to this list since I just got it and a Switch 2 at the end of November, but I feel I got a good enough feel for the game to include it. The game definitely feels like an evolution of Mario Kart 8 and for the series as a whole, but at the same time I feel like it doesn't live up to its own potential. There are a lot of fun and exciting new tracks, and the game is very visually stunning. I really enjoyed how the karts now crash and tumble around when hit with items and hazards, versus having set animations like in previous games. It felt a lot more organic and made the game feel more advanced. And while I still have to get the hang of it, the whole parkour aspect to the karts is a neat and fun addition too that makes the game feel extra unique. I feel the open world aspect could have been done better though. I do like the addition as it feels like it adds more to the game, but at the same time, it feels like there just isn't enough variety in what you can do in the open world to really motivate me to want to play more in freeform mode. The whole traveling between courses is neat, but I feel it takes away from the time spent on the main courses during the Grand Prix, which is kinda disappointing. I do like this game though, and it's definitely one I'll casually be coming back to play with people. Despite this being a solid game, it's unfortunately not higher on the list due to others being a bit more up my alley, but this was still a fun first game for me on the Switch 2.
Number 5.
I certainly had a fun time diving into Metroid Zero Mission. It does a great job at remaking the original Metroid for the NES, which, while I always thought that one was fun to mess around with here and there, I've always been discouraged from finishing it from how poorly it's aged and the spikes in difficulty. But I always wanted to see the full game through though, so I'm glad I was able to with this remake. It was fun seeing the areas I recognized in the early game remade in Super Metroid style. There are definitely a lot of quality of life things added, like an in-game map, diagonal aiming, and save points that weren't in the original. I feel some of the power-ups you get weren't in the original either, and that makes the game feel more advanced, and all the additions make the game feel much smoother and a more fun experience. I do wonder if they maybe went too far with some of the changes that made the game feel more linear than the original, but I also didn't mind them showing me the way to the next power-up either. Exploring the maps was fun, just like other Metroids I've played, and I definitely loved the atmosphere and the variety of biomes. I had mixed feelings on the boss fights, which, while I think the scope and sprites for the bosses are cool, the projectile spam annoyed me a bit and makes them feel like a test of endurance based on how many health and missile upgrades you have found. The game also adds a whole new section at the end that feels oddly disconnected from the rest of the game, almost like it's its own mini Metroid experience. I had mixed feelings on this part, as some of it is very tedious and unforgiving, but it also has some cool and fun moments too that almost make up for it. Despite my little gripes, the game definitely surpassed the original, and I think I may prefer it over Samus Returns, but it doesn't top Super Metroid for me. Overall, I do think this is a good Metroid experience, and I'm glad I got around to trying it this year.
Number 4.
I only learned of Viewfinder's existence this year, and while I found the concept very interesting, I wasn't planning on buying it at the moment, and wishlisted it for later. However, it ended up being one of the free games with PS Plus in September, and since it was a shorter game, I was very eager to give it a go. The game is a puzzle game, where you use images to shape the levels around you, which is definitely very mind-bending and an impressive technological feat. The levels start out simpler, but start introducing new elements and tools for you to use as you progress to make them more complicated and keep things fresh. I think before I started, I thought the levels would be larger and longer, but it makes sense they are bite-sized, since the more you do, the more chaotic and out of control it would get. And since there is so much you can do to break the game and levels, the game is very forgiving to mistakes, and lets you rewind to undo what you've done. I found the game to be really cozy for the most part, outside of a couple levels, and I really enjoyed messing around and experimenting with the mechanics and discovering all sorts of secrets. The story really wasn't anything overly special, but I still really enjoyed learning about the simulation from the audio tapes around the levels. It was definitely a very unique and memorable game, and I'm glad I got to experience its creativity, and it's one I can definitely see myself coming back to play through again one day.
Number 3.
R.E.P.O might just be the best Lethal Company type game I've played yet. Unlike Content Warning, this game follows the formula of finding loot in a randomly generated location while avoiding monsters much more closely, but it does a lot to make itself stand out from its inspiration and feel like an improvement. This game does a lot to add to the formula, like getting upgrades for yourself, having a map to guide you through the generated locations, and has a fun physics system for you to mess around with. There are so many more tools and abilities to help you in your adventures, and more options for you to fight back, but it is still very tense and dangerous. I feel this game leans even more into the comedic aspect compared to Lethal Company, especially with the text-to-speech feature and all the wacky monsters and items you find. But again, this is not a bad thing, as this makes this a laughter-filled experience. I got one. Oh, okay, I think I got it.
Jesus, man.
And even losing in this game is a blast, as instead of just resetting you at the beginning, it pits you against each other and has you fight to the death. It feels this game is brimming with more content too compared to its brethren, with more getting added still. I don't think this game entirely surpasses the fear aspect of Lethal Company, but it does, however, provide a nice balance of both a tense objective, but also the freedom to mess around, which makes this into an incredibly fun experience, and it's one I definitely want to keep coming back to. I'm sort of surprised this made it into my top 3, but at the same time, it definitely makes sense too, as it's a great and hilarious multiplayer experience.
Number 2.
Even though I heard it got some mixed reception, I personally really enjoyed Pokemon Legends ZA. This game takes the base Legends Arceus created, with real-time Pokemon capturing, and adds onto it a real-time battle system too. While I wouldn't say this style of battling is superior to the main series turn-based battles, I still thought it was a lot of fun and a nice change of pace. It made me excited to use a lot of my old favorites I've used in the past in a new way, and there were so much more Pokemon I wish I could have used that has me itching to replay this game again. Mega Evolution returns in a big way in this game too, and it was fun seeing all the new ones they added into it. The setting is rather unique for a Pokemon game here too, with the game being confined to one large city. It was fun seeing the wild Pokemon get implemented into the city, both in the streets and rooftops, as well as the designated wild zones. The Pokemon feel more lively than ever in this game too, which is a nice improvement over some of the other Switch Pokemon games. The story, while not overly deep, was entertaining and had a very fun and memorable cast of characters, and I was definitely hooked to rise up the ranks in the ZA tournament and learn more about what's going on in the city. This definitely isn't a perfect game, although criticisms I've seen with the graphics and new megaforms were not issues to me at all, and my issues were more with the pacing of the game. But even then, that didn't really hinder the game for me, and I had a really fun time in this one, building my team and becoming the top trainer in Lumiose. Legends ZA narrowly almost snuck into the #1 spot, and there was definitely a big debate in my head between this and the upcoming game, but I think ZA's imperfections prevent it from taking the crown. Still, it's one of my favorite games I've played this year nonetheless.
Number 1.
Split Fiction was a new release I was very excited to play this year with my girlfriend. We both had lots of fun with A Way Out and It Takes Two a couple years ago, so we were definitely eager to dive into their new co-op adventure here. And upon starting it, we were both hooked and having lots of fun. Jumping between sci-fi and fantasy worlds was definitely a creative and fun concept that really provided the game with lots of fun scenarios to experience. The story was definitely engaging and would hit us both in our funny bones and our feels, and we were always itching to know what would happen next. I really enjoyed learning more about the characters Mio and Zoe through their story ideas too. There was never a dull moment with this game, and it was constantly providing new and interesting gameplay mechanics for us to play with that never got stale. There were plenty of opportunities too for us to make our own fun with the game and mess around with each other with the environments and mechanics. The game did have moments of challenge for us, but we would always be able to overcome it, and it was never too daunting. I definitely had a blast playing this game with my girlfriend, and I have to say, Hazelight has definitely mastered their craft in creating super fun and memorable co-op experiences, which is on full display here in Split Fiction. This game has been sitting at the number 1 spot the whole year, and although I debated putting Pokemon above it due to my love of the series, the quality of this game and the fact I got to share the experience of it with my girlfriend gives it the edge to win as the best game I've played in 2025. I'm definitely glad I was able to fit in all the games I could in this very busy year, and I very much enjoyed my time with them. Would love to hear your thoughts on the games I played, and also hear what your favorite games you've played this year are too. I know there's a bunch I had hoped I'd get around to this year that I didn't, but hey, I got 2026 and beyond to keep chugging away at my backlog and continue my gaming adventures. I know I'm excited to continue diving into Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, and Battlefield 6, and hope to include them in next year's list. I'm excited to play more on my new Switch 2 as well, and I'm excited to see what new games they might be having coming out for it. I am also excited to continue sharing my gaming adventures more with you all in the new year. So if you wish to keep up with my journeys there, definitely smash that subscribe button. I know I didn't make a lot of videos in 2025 due to the busyness, but I'm hoping to balance things better in the new year and get more out this time. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a very fun and exciting year of gaming in 2026.